Welcome to this session of What I Want to Show You. I'm Char. I'm a teacher, administrator, and leader who lives in the U.S. along the shores of Lake Erie, and I am very passionate about making learning connections where others may not see them in order to close learning gaps and support learners. And I am joined by my friend from across the Atlantic, Laura. Laura, can you introduce yourself?
Yes, I am Laura, as I suppose you've gathered by now. I've been involved with education in one or another way for many years, teaching at university level, tutoring underprivileged students, and working in learning design. I live in Cape Town, South Africa, and recently I've also become very interested in the way that AI and other technologies can support learning and disrupt the traditional model of education.
So we're going to spend the next 30 minutes or so sharing what we want to show you at this intersection of ideas and experiences. And we realize that despite our very different backgrounds, locations, we have a lot of commonalities that we didn't expect. So we thought you might have some as well, and we'd like to share ours with you. You know, Laura, we have been doing a lot of work around generative AI. And I don't know about you, but I continue to hear from people the concern that generative AI tools like ChatGPT and other things are going to replace humans, especially in the world of education. And you and I spend a lot of time in that education space. I don't agree with that. What do you think?
I think that you're right, that people are saying a lot of things about it replacing us and replacing teachers. And while it may replace certain occupations, I don't think AI, generative AI at the very least, can replace teachers. I think that a lot of people have been saying, but wait, it's not going to replace us, it's just going to make us better. But I think the reverse might also be true, that we make AI better. What do you think?
You know, I like that thought. And if we flip our thinking about how AI can make us better, then I think maybe we're more open to the conversation of it's not replacing us. I've heard a lot of the term augmenting us. It's helping us to be more effective or find space to build relationships. You know, you and I have spent time getting to know each other and sharing our interests together over the past months, building that relationship. And I can sit and ask questions of ChatGPT for hours at a time, and it will respond to me, but I'm not building a relationship with it. You know, so when you think about that building relationship, like what is the difference between I'm asking you a lot of questions and I'm asking ChatGPT a lot of questions? Like, why is it that we're building a relationship with each other and ChatGPT is just responding to my questions?
It's interesting because I know it intuitively to be true, but to actually interrogate why that is, I think there's a mutual kind of emotional investment. I think that I care what you think, I care what you say, but I know that you have the same of me. I have some responsibility in this relationship. And I think maybe it's that. Maybe it's the feeling of responsibility. It's the feeling of connecting to somebody with mutual, because look, as much as I like chatting to ChatGPT and value the contributions it can make to anything I do, it doesn't really care about me at all. It doesn't trust
No.
me. It doesn't respect me. It doesn't remember me, and it won't be happy to see me because, it just, so maybe it's those things. Maybe it's the feeling of value. We need to feel valued and appreciated and acknowledged. And we can't get that from generative AI.
Yeah, I like how you broke that down. You know, it doesn't trust you. You're not building a trust relationship with it. It doesn't remember you. It doesn't even remember anything, right?
Hmm.
It can save the conversations that you have, and it can access those saved conversations and continue it at a later time, which is not the same as remembering the conversation and the emotion that wrapped through those conversations. It's not feeling angry or empathetic or happy when you are asking it things. It's just processing what you're asking it so that it can start planning how it's going to give you its best response, not feeling joy that you're sharing something with it. I think that's the piece that maybe is key to it will never build relationships with us.
I think I'd argue that some human relationships are the same way. It's just planning how it's going to respond to you and not really caring. But yeah, I think I'm a bit of an anime nerd. And I've often noticed there's a recurrent theme in a lot of animes. It doesn't matter if you hate me, as long as you acknowledge me. And I think maybe that's the crux of it. It can never acknowledge you. It can never, because even when there are arch rivals, the acknowledgement means respect. Respect enough, even if it's respect enough to kill me using my top secret ninja technique. And that's something we can never get. We can never get that except from other people.
Well, I think that respect goes along with the term being seen. You feel seen or you feel heard. You're not getting that from generative AI either. It doesn't, while that's also a strength for it, that it does not see you. So you're going to get the same neutral response that it would give anyone asking it the same set of questions or prompts. That is an upside for it, but it's not fulfilling to have ongoing what appear to be conversations with technology, because ultimately you aren't seen or heard or valued as a person with a unique vision, skill set of experiences that you're bringing to the conversation. It doesn't have that. So while you and I can have conversations, I think we're each bringing our own whole selves to that conversation, and our ability as a human to experience emotion and convey emotion back and reflect emotion back, or like technology isn't there. I think about, I'm a Star Trek watcher. So the American show Star Trek and all the different versions of Star Trek, one of the characters was Data. Data was and they talk about Data often as examples when we talk about technology. Data was as human-like as possible for a piece of technology to become. And even then, Data didn't have that true emotional response, always came from a place of logic, couldn't really see the depth of human emotion or human relationships, built friendships in a logical sense for him, but never in the depth that humans build friendships. So, I think we started talking about this because from a teaching perspective, teaching superpower is not you're a content expert, because technology can be that. It's not that you're a great lesson planner, because technology can do that. It's not that you can individualize things, because if you feed the right information into the technology, it can create that. What your superpower is as an educator is your ability to connect at a human level to whomever you're educating. whether those are adults or children, in a classroom setting, or as you and I have been sharing with each other this past week as a tutor. You know, building those relationships and adjusting in the moment based on the feedback that you're getting from the child that you're working with is very fulfilling in a way that interacting with a piece of tech cannot be.
I think you've actually hit on the crux of it there. It's fulfilling, not only for you, but for the child as well. And I was actually chatting to somebody else earlier today, and he was mentioning how he thinks that tech could do a lot of assessment, and I said, but it shouldn't, because as a teacher, you need to be able to identify certain gaps with the knowledge of the context of the students. So while AI would probably be able to say this seems to be a deficit, you can understand the context of the student. You have the relationship to remedy it in the best way. You can use contextual examples. You can use things that they can relate to in a way that I can never do. And you need to be doing assessments, whatever their form they take, in such a way that you can pick up on these things, and so that you can track the progress, because otherwise that's what a teacher does. They teach. So that, and also then I also feel that then you can have that one-on-one relationship, whether with an adult or a child, and you can form a relationship that supports the AI. It's never just about interacting with AI. So yes, AI augments us, but we can make the experience of using AI more meaningful and more productive.
Well, when you talk about using it more meaningfully, the conversation I was having the other night about AI and math, one of the topics that came up when I was having this conversation was that sometimes students ask questions or make statements that are difficult for the teacher to kind of unwrap. Like, where did that come from? What is it you're actually trying to ask me? And if you can put that kind of unorganized statement into generative AI, because generative AI is trained to work with vagueness, it can actually suggest these might be the things that the child is actually trying to ask, which I thought was a really interesting way, to think about that. When you talk about it can help within conversations. I asked AI the other night, would it create some possible misconceptions as students might share during a lesson? And then could it create some questions for me that I could ask students that would get their thinking going back in the right direction? And for me as a teacher, I want, in that moment when I'm standing next to a student who's going off to the left when they need to be going to the right, it's hard for me to think of the right question to ask or the right feedback in the moment there. But if in advance I can have kind of a toolbox of those questions ready to go, then I can work on reading the child and what's happening in the moment and saying, I see that you're really like thinking here. Talk to me about your thinking. Where are you going here in your thinking? Here's this piece of feedback that I think might get you going back in the right direction. The child has a trust relationship with me because I'm always there. We are sharing information together. I can give them support, and that proximity piece and the making eye contact piece, and having then the augmented, here's the right feedback in the moment. I can focus on putting the energy into making sure the child feels like they're going to be able to accomplish this without having to be thinking, oh, wow, you're going off in this direction. What is something I can tell you right now while 22 other children are also going in various directions? So I think that's an example of how it can augment you while you're using your relationship power to kind of enforce that thinking in the classroom or with the kid.
Also, the expectation of approval from an authority figure for a child is a very powerful motivator. You know, I remember when I was coaching a junior, in one of my positions, I was in a senior position, and I was coaching a junior, and I said to him, "Why are you seem to have really put a lot of work into this. Is there something in particular, why are you working late hours on this?" And he said to me, "Because I don't want to disappoint you." And in the struggle, you may think that's not a great thing, but in the struggle and in trying to get it right so that he doesn't disappoint me, he grew in leaps and bounds on that project. And I think that the approval of an authority figure can be, I mean, I'm not, a lot of people are motivated by the opposite. I probably am most motivated by the teacher who told me I'd be good for nothing but marriage after high school. But it can be a powerful motivator, and it can be extremely encouraging, and it can give you the safety to think, which is what we're actually trying to do these days, right? We're trying to give children the safe space where they can think for themselves and innovate, because that's what they're going to need to be able to do.
Yeah, I like that you said that safe space, where they feel like it's okay to ask that question or to try out the idea. We can build that sense of safety because we're encouraging, or we're giving that positive feedback, or we're recognizing an effort, or, okay, you tried that. What did you learn from that? Here, let's move forward. How can we think that? And building that connection to kind things that are important to them in that moment. I'm tutoring a little girl. She's in second grade in the United States, so she's 7. And we were working together last night, and I had an idea in my head of the kinds of activities I wanted to do in the hour that we get to spend together. She had a different idea in her head about what she wanted to do in that hour. And it dawned on me as I was watching her that what I needed to be doing was more kinesthetic learning with her, that she on her own was coming up with arm motions and cheers to go with the words that we needed to be working on. And in that moment, the relationship side is seeing that that's how she was making a connection and going with it and going, okay, well, here's the next word we're going to be working on. What's the arm movements that we could use? Let's make a cheer out of that. Okay, let's repeat it. And, she added some dance moves to go with that. And then playing games to come up with some more words and the dance moves. And I was like, okay, this is where that trust relationship is occurring, because she knew that I respected her and saw value in what she was doing and didn't try to force it in a different direction. If I had stuck to the plan that I'd had in place, I'm not sure she would have been successful yesterday or felt successful. But at the end of the time together, there was a sticker sheet sitting on the table, and stickers are highly motivating for her anyway. And so, she put a sticker on her notes that she had made herself. She's like, I did a good job on my notes today, and sticker went on the notes. And, thinking about that, going back to relationships, like the fact that there was the flexibility to adjust in the moment, still learned what she needed to learn last night, still, and probably better than the way I was thinking about it. But I think that comes from the relationship that we have with each other. You know, she trusts me. She knows that I encourage her and listen and spend time with her. You know, she shared a paragraph that she had written and wanted to read to me and then have me read with her. She values, as you said, that approval from me. It was like, this is really great. You did a nice job reading this, and this is why. She's looking to me to see, how am I responding to this? Am I responding in a positive, encouraging way? She's reading that in the body language that I am sending back to her, in addition to like the verbal cues that I'm giving her. And I don't see that generative AI can do that either.
If you'll allow me a momentary digression, Char.
We
Your
always
story
have
has
digressions, Laura.
your story has made me think of something that I have held for a very long time. That children between the ages of, say, 6 and 12 are not meant to sit in a classroom for however many hours in a day. I have seen so many children who are just energetic children be medicated. It's childhood. That's what they're afflicted with. And I say afflicted, and I have a hairdresser, and she says that her son is very bouncy, and the school told her to put him on Ritalin, and she said okay. So she gives him a half a tablet in the morning just so he can get through the school day, and that's it. They think he is completely medicated at all times, and she's like, he's learning, right? He comes home, he does his homework, he moves around, he has these multisensory experiential learning, but he doesn't need this. It's just unnatural for a child to expect a child to do that. And I'm not saying that there isn't neurodiversity. There is definitely a massive diversity of approaches and all sorts of things and neurology, but not every child. I mean, very few children actually naturally would sit still for hours and hours on end, unless something super engrossing, which I don't remember school ever being.
Right. And then when you layer on top of that, you may have, you may be in a different place in your learning than the children around you. That makes it that more difficult. And, you know, finding those opportunities with real world context that makes sense to you. You know, we worked on measuring yesterday. She doesn't do a lot of measuring. And so we could have measured given things sitting at the table. But instead, we took the ruler outside and we measured sticks and plants and recorded those things, you know, in her notes. And she was still measuring, but it was measuring in a context that was engaging to her, and there was a lot of choice. She was choosing what she wanted to measure versus we're all measuring this. And that's where I think, going back to teacher and relationships, I think when teachers build strong relationships with the children that they are working with or the adults that they're working with, it's because they've taken the time to really get to know each individual child, but then put in place opportunities in their classroom for that kind of choice or real world connections, where this is the skill we're looking at, but you can do this skill in so many different contexts. So go for it. Ultimately, what we're focusing on is learning this skill, not learning it exactly in this way.
And you managed to make learning not feel like a chore for her.
Right.
That's key.
And so she's excited. She looks forward to seeing me. And, you know, it doesn't hurt that there's a puppy at the end of the lesson. But I think it's that kind of experience then that feeds you as a teacher too, because at the end of the day, the end of that time, we both walk away having our cups filled with some joy. Like I felt I enjoyed learning with her. She had fun learning with me. I saw that she'd made a step forward. She felt that she had done something successful. She gave herself a sticker and played with the puppy and was very happy to take her papers that she'd written herself home. And those kinds of mutually beneficial teaching relationships will not come from generative AI. It's not walking away ever thinking, wow, that was a great interaction. I'm so much better because of it. It's learned something because of what I put into it, but it doesn't find joy in what it's learning.
But it can be used to augment these kinds of experiences, or you can augment its experiences. So I mentioned to you briefly, I think that there was a 12-year-old in my orbit who I wanted to foolishly share the joy of reading with, because I've always enjoyed reading.
Right.
There was no generative AI, there were no iPads when I was growing up. And I've had this lifelong love of reading because it feels like it allows me to experience things I never otherwise would. She was reluctant, to say the least. We got to a point where I eventually dragged her to a bookshop, said to her, you can choose any book in here. For Pete's sake, just choose a book.
Right.
She eventually did. I took her home. I said, okay, now we're all going to read our new books. We sat down in front of the fireplace. She thought it was a lovely setup, but she couldn't focus. So we finally said to her, okay, listen, you're going to read for 20 minutes. No dice. 5 minutes later, she was chattering. So I said, okay, look, I'm going to set the timer for 15 minutes on my phone. She doesn't give herself a chance to get into the book. So I thought maybe she'd just get into it,
Right.
So I said, okay, we're going to read for 15 minutes. If you say, every time you say a word or get up, she's 12. She should be able to sit still for a little bit by now, 15 minutes. Right. Every time you say a word or get up or close your book, we're going to start the timer again. She read for those 15 minutes after 2 false starts. Then she put the book down and didn't pick it up again. So, so I was starting to lose hope. And then we were seeing about all these choose your own adventure things that people have been doing. And I said to my husband, okay, maybe what we need to do is we need to find a way to get her involved. So maybe a choose your adventure story would be, she can sort of direct the course of the story. And then what we ended up doing was not doing that. We ended up showing her how to generate an entire story from her own. So we said, okay, generate premises, and from there, you iteratively do it. We demoed a couple of prompts for her, and she said, okay, now I want to do it. And she did it for herself. But the key was that we were there. My phone was in a different room. We were fully engaged. We shared the excitement with her. We were told that there was something cool we wanted to show her, but we shared the excitement with her. She wanted us to engage. She said, I think this is the best premise. What do you think? Which ones do you like? And then she was like, okay, I want to. And of course, we also helped her with prompts when she got stuck. But then she kept looking to us, saying, I want to know what happens next, and looking to us for approval and our own enthusiasm, our own excitement. So it was AI that was kind of doing the heavy lifting in a way, but without our complete engagement. She started reading out loud to us, asking us to read parts of it out loud to her. And she's never done this before, but so in the beginning, she was struggling to read out loud to us. 5 hours later, when she was still enthusiastically sitting there, and we said to her, well, please just stop for like 10 minutes. We need to have supper. No, we need to have supper. And she said, I need to know what happens next. And I thought, oh my word, this is the moment I've been waiting for.
Right, you finally accomplished it.
And she said, please, can I have another hour? I mean, this is a child who 3 weeks ago wouldn't read a book that she had chosen for herself. But she also, it was bite-sized bits because she was doing it iteratively. However, by the time we got to the end, she was like, I just want to generate the whole story and just read it in one go. I mean,
Interesting.
it changed everything just involving her, that she felt that she had some agency in it, that she was just passive recipient. And also she felt like she was co-creating, and she felt it was a bonding experience. It was a joyful thing that we could all share. We sat there and we ate snacks, and we had it was a lovely experience of co-creation amongst all of us, even though ChatGPT was doing the actual writing of the story.
I
And
love
that's what
that.
I meant
That
by us augmenting AI.
it can do some of the cognitive lift, going back to that, where it was doing the cognitive lifting so that you all could really focus on the joy that she was finding and encouraging her. What you really ultimately wanted was for her to read, which is what she was doing, and reading out
Mm.
loud, which is what she was doing. And she was doing it because you were in the minute with her and you were not checking in every 10 minutes to see how she was doing while you sat in the other room and looked at your phone or did your own work and every once in a while looked up. She felt that you were engaging with her. And because you were there and encouraging her, she was comfortable engaging with the AI.
Yes. I mean, by the end of the time she was reading, there was genuine emotion in her reading out loud because she became invested because we were invested.
And it is that investment and that co-creating and that co-learning that is nothing like it. I mean, you must have walked out of there that evening feeling so good about life in general.
I did actually.
After working so long with her to like light that spark and trying so many different ways, finding that opportunity to, as you said, give her some agency in her learning. It's like, wow, if generative AI can help give a child agency in an environment where the teacher is a co-creator alongside the child or is giving encouragement and feedback to the child while they're working with the tool, I think ultimately that is the best scenario. Not plopping a kid down in front of technology and walking away, not giving the kid a scripted activity to work through with a known response, because she was creating in the moment that story with the AI. It was not, hey, AI, write the story for me. Total, like she was putting some input into it. So it had that element of choose your own adventure, without her having to do all of the writing lift herself. So she felt that it was reflecting her own ideas.
Yes. And I mean, it wasn't just us, because we have tried reading out loud to her before. She would lose interest in 5 seconds flat. I think it was the active part of it as well.
Yes.
But I don't think it would have been as effective without the AI, but I definitely don't think it would have been as effective without us. And it had to be both of us, because I went to the bathroom and she stopped to wait for me because she didn't want to continue without me. She wanted that excitement. She wanted that involvement. She wanted it to be a bonding experience. I mean, we've taken her in the past. We've taken her on boat rides to go to Seal Island. So I mean, she'd never been on a boat before. So going on a boat ride was a major thing. We've taken her to the lion sanctuary and she thought it was amazing. She'd never seen lions in real life before. She took videos. It was incredible. And yet, after she left after this on Sunday, she said, that was the best time I've ever had with you.
Wow.
Yeah, blew my mind.
Mind blowing. Absolutely. And I think I'm glad you shared that, as we kind of wrap up our time together today. I talk so often about why it's so important to have experiences for children, but maybe we need to be a little more intentional about their agency and engagement in the experience. Is it an experience that's being done with them, or is it an experience that they are helping to co-create the experience? That was the strength of what you wound up doing with the reading, was she was helping to co-create that. On the field trips that you've taken, she went along and she got to see things she'd not seen before, but it wasn't the same level of engagement. It wasn't a choose your adventure. You chose the adventure, and she was seeing new things. But maybe the follow-up is, well, what would you like to do as a result of this? Do you want to learn more about lions? Do you want to try different kinds of boats? What that level of follow-up maybe is where we miss sometimes with kids.
She's already planned her follow-ups to this. She's going to record an audiobook now. She wants to record the entire story as an audiobook. But I think the thing is that we forget that this is why I wanted to share reading with her, for the experiences, right? So
Right.
while she loved the field trips, what we would think of as experiences, she had an amazing, mysterious adventure experience sitting on the couch as well.
I love that. I always learn something and think differently about my own thinking when I talk with you, Laura. Thanks for
Same
taking.
with you.
And we could talk for ages and ages, I think,
Mm.
but we know that there is so much more to see than what we've shared today. And we'd love for you to show us what you see, or use our conversation as an opportunity to share what you see with others. Laura, I hope you have a great day.
You too, Char, and thanks to everybody who's listening.